The history of advertising to boys and girls has changed over the past generations. In the early years of advertising through television, ads had some gap, but overall, products were more gender neutral and did not divide boys and girls as clearly as it does today. Advertising has changed immensely from what it once was, and many individuals today realize the divide. In the early 50s, when television advertising started to make an impact, advertising to children focused more on effect rather than content. Ads targeted children as a group rather than dividing them into clear gender roles as we see today. Television shows that had commercials added on helped children to remember ads, and this was most distinct when Barbie was introduced in the late 50s. This encouraged a gender divide among boys and girls. Overall, up until the 1960s, toy ads for girls focused heavily on domesticity and nurturing, while toys for boys focused on building. However, many toy ads in the 70s actively challenged gender stereotypes by having boys play with toys like dolls and cooking in a kitchen. Girls were shown building and playing masculine roles like a scientist or a doctor. In the 1980s and mid-90s, however, gendered advertising had returned back to similar styles seen in the late 50s and early 60s. Ads marketed directly to boys or girls through color, pink for girls and blue for boys. Marketers could convince families to buy two versions of the same product, designed either for a boy or girl. This has continued to spread throughout advertising of toys and necessities up until recent years. Let's take a closer look at ads throughout the years.
During the 1960s, some ads were clearly designed to prepare young girls to a life of homemaking and specific tasks that were portrayed to be enjoyable for women. A 1925 Sears ad for a toy broom and mop set proclaimed, "Mothers, here's a real practical toy for little girls. Every little girl likes to play house, to sweep, and to do mother's work for her." Toys for boys from the 20s through 60s emphasized preparation for working in the industrial economy. A 1925 Sears ad for an erector set stated, "Every boy likes to tinker around and to try to build things. With an erector set, he can gain mental development and learn the fundamentals of engineering." In advertising directed towards children, there is a fine line between serious versus more silly ads. Serious ads include necessities that children need, such as diapers, baby oil, or baby food. Serious ads for babies usually show a mother taking care of the baby. Ads that have a sillier approach are usually ads about toys or games. Using humor in children's ads can attract kids to a certain product. Now that we've talked about advertising for kids, we'll talk about the effects it has on children.
For many years, television has been viewed as a big part of the all-American family. However, over time, people have become worried about the impact of television on children, especially when it comes to the advertisements. One study conducted in 2015 showed that children at the ages of 2 were already consuming a large amount of mass media through various electronics. With more time spent consuming media means the more likely a child will be exposed to ads. The biggest concern about advertising towards children is how advertisers promote unhealthy foods, since a majority of these ads will contain sugary foods. These advertising techniques have a strong impact on the youth. One study took children from the elementary age group and had them watch television segments which either incorporated food ads or none. What researchers found was participants who watched television with food ads would consume 45% more of snacks provided to them than children who didn't watch any food ads. That's one example of how big of an impact advertising has. Another concern is how advertisers present younger ages with gender and racial stereotypes when selling their products, especially when it comes to toys. In the past, we've seen toy sections split into two categories, one for boys and one for girls. The impact is best illustrated by one study showing toys that are repeatedly targeted at certain genders can later lead to jobs either being dominated by men or women. Today, food ads for children ages 2 to 11 have decreased. There's been an increase, though, for ages 12 and up. This is due to many laws and restrictions now being put in place to inhibit advertisements directed at children due to the research that highlight its negative impacts. Medical institutions are now warning parents to only allow certain amounts of time for their children to consume TV or mass media due to possible eye strain and the amount of food advertisements. Also, today, many are realizing not only the health risk, but the psychological risk they run when letting their children see ads that can illustrate like what defines a man or what defines a woman. Fortunately, today, places like Walmart and Toys R Us have agreed to stop using such blatant forms of gender stereotyping in their advertisements.
Although today many ads are still gender marketed and use defining colors or wording to separate boys from girls, many companies and stores are realizing society's acceptance of neutral gendered products. It is up to advertisers to either change or revert to past methods based on society's preferences in the future.